Hello and welcome back to our analysis of yoga philosophy called The Errors of Yoga. Now we are in part 7 and we will look into the logical errors of yoga philosophy. In any philosophical or religious system, it is crucial to critically examine the logical consistency and coherence of its claims. Yoga philosophy contains certain logical errors that merit careful scrutiny. Now we will analyze these logical errors and prove that yoga is indeed logically wrong. There are a lot of logical errors so that yoga philosophy itself is wrong. So that will be our approach. Number one, non sequiturs. Non sequiturs is a logical fallacy, an error where a conclusion does not logically flow from a premise. In yoga philosophy, several claims can be identified as non sequiturs where the outcomes do not logically follow from the stated practices or beliefs. Number one, the nature of moksha through yoga discipline. In other words, the claim is that practicing your specific yogic disciplines invariably will lead to liberation through self realization. This assertion that performing certain physical and mental exercises, while necessarily, will not lead to any knowledge about reality nor liberation through self realization and or liberation through separation of the consciousness from matter. While these practices can enhance mental clarity or physical well being, though these are unproven, I already showed that yoga does not cause any good. The leap of achieving ultimate spiritual liberation does not logically follow from the premise that performing these exercises will lead to a change in the nature, very fabric of nature. Moksha or liberation or deliverance from matter as an ultimate spiritual state involves profound metaphysical and existential transformations, which needs to be done. But these cannot be done by doing yoga exercises. That's, of course, assuming that all those things are there. The problems which yoga is solving is real. You're just assuming it, and then after making an assumption, we are telling now yoga will not, claiming that yoga will lead to liberation is the non sequitur. There is no logical reason for yoga to deliver you, to grant you any form of salvation from anything. The opposite is true. Yoga can lead to bondage, self deception, spiritual deception, and a lifelong journey of self deception. Number two, reincarnation and unfulfilled desires. Reincarnation is necessary because individuals have unfulfilled desires and karmic debts that must be resolved in future lives. In other words, the claim is that reincarnation is necessary, logically necessary, because someone has unfulfilled desires and punishments he needs to undergo. So the Hindu solution is that you need a reincarnation, or reincarnation was invented for that, but it is not a necessity. Analysis. The claim presupposes the existence of a mechanism for reincarnation based on unfulfilled desires and karma. But it does not provide empirical or logical evidence to support how or why the mechanisms operate. The leap from observation of human desires to the necessity of reincarnation is a significant logical gap. It lacks logical basis, making it a non sequitur. Next, logical contradictions in yoga philosophy. Logical contradictions occur when a set of statements or beliefs contain elements that are mutually exclusive or logically incompatible. Number one, the nature of self and non-self. Yoga philosophy, particularly in the classical form, holds that the true self, Atman, is eternal, unchanging, and distinct from the physical body and mind. It's also called consciousness or Purusha in yoga philosophy, same Atman. However, certain interpretations of yoga influenced by Buddhist teachings introduced the concept of anatman, or no atma, or no soul in Buddhism. These two views are logically incompatible, and both of them require reincarnation or rebirth. But yoga philosophy does not just claim that Buddhism is anatman and yoga is atman, but yoga philosophy claims that the contradiction is that consciousness, universal consciousness, is trapped in matter, and that is you. And universal consciousness, which is you, does not know that you are who it is. It does not know it is universal consciousness, Yogi should teach you it is universal consciousness, or the universal consciousness is supposed to know. And by definition, the universal consciousness will not get trapped in matter, nor will it remain ignorant. All these are contradictions because this Purusha is pure consciousness, but it displays ignorance, and therefore it's a contradiction. The universal consciousness, pure actuality will not have these problems. And next is the classic one, classic contradiction. All Christians would have learnt about it. It's nothing but the fact that practitioners are encouraged to detach from desire and sensory experiences to achieve spiritual growth. When this detachment from desires is taught, at the same time, yoga philosophy acknowledges the pursuit of certain desires, such as the desire for liberation and the attainment of desire for powers. This creates a contradiction. Even if they say it should be detached from the power, you have to have a desire to get the power. And therefore, this creates a contradiction between detachment and attachment. This creates a contradiction while practitioners are told to abandon desire. They are simultaneously encouraged to cultivate a strong desire for spiritual achievements. And this duality can lead to confusion and inconsistency in practice, and it is a contradiction because a human being cannot live without desires. He cannot totally detach himself. But because of the assumptions of yoga philosophy, they think the universal consciousness can do that. Why should it even have a problem? You see the contradiction? So now the problem for the universal consciousness is desire and attachment. So this is the universal consciousness having problems, which is pure consciousness, which is pure actuality, which is infinite. But according to this, that perfect consciousness is having imperfections. And that is a big contradiction. And the plain contradiction is that, you should not have desires, and that becomes a desire. So you will have a desire not to have a desire. In other words, desire is undeniable, inescapable. Next, we come to logical fallacies in yoga philosophy. Number one, appeal to authority. Now, yoga philosophy is not, I thought about it and it happened. It's based on some text. And these texts are attributed authority, and these are the basis for the yoga philosophy. These include Vedas, Upanishads, Yoga Sutra, and nobody knows even who wrote it. But the Brahmins have made sure that it is imposed upon themselves because they don't even allow others to read that. And they are, whoever believes it is in trouble because there is no good reason to believe these texts or attribute authority to these texts. These are blind beliefs, top down instructions by Brahmins. It should be rejected. So that is the appeal to authority. So the appeal to the authority of yoga, texts, authorized or authoritative text, is made as a reason for believing in it. Okay, it's written there, it's all those things. That's what we mean by appeal to authority. Yoga, Patanjali said it is written in the sutras, it is written in the Vedas, and all these things. So that does not account for truth, unless, of course, it you substantiate and you prove the reliability of the text. Next, post hoc ergo propter hoc. After this, therefore, because of this incident happened, and then the next incident happened, therefore, they are connected. Okay, it is not logical. It need not be. That's the point. It can be, but it cannot be. Just because they are arranged, they have happened in that order, it does not have any connection, correlation, or causation. Practicing yoga leads to various health, physical, mental, and spiritual benefits. That's the claim. Therefore, any positive change alone, okay, is associated with yoga. It's attributed to yoga practice. And this fallacy assumes a causal relationship based solely on temporal successions, or first this, next this. That is temporal successions. While practicing yoga can or may lead to improvements in health and well-being which are not been established, attributing all the positive changes directly to yoga without considering other factors such as diet, lifestyle, and genetics is logically flawed. It's a logical error. Correlations do not imply causation, and this fallacy can lead to overestimating the effects of yoga philosophy. False dichotomy. Yoga philosophy often presents a choice between spiritual ignorance and enlightenment, avidya and vidya, implying that one must fully embrace the practices and beliefs of yoga to avoid ignorance and attain enlightenment. This is the false dichotomy, ignores the possibility of a third alternative, other paths to knowledge and spiritual fulfillment. It presents a limited and binary perspective, excluding other valid approaches to spiritual growth and understanding, and therefore, avidya with vidya is bipolar, and it is not true. Or it is a logical fallacy called false dichotomy. So the conclusion is that examining yoga philosophy through the lens of logical analysis reveals several non sequiturs, logical contradictions, and logical fallacies. These logical errors, three types of errors, highlight the need for critical scrutiny and rational evaluation of claims made within this philosophical system. While yoga offers valuable insights and practices for personal growth and well being, it is essential to recognize and address its logical shortcomings. Okay, so it is wrong. By doing so, practitioners and scholars can engage with yoga philosophy in a more informed and balanced manner, approaching its strengths while remaining aware of its limitations and errors. After all, it is a ancient philosophy based on ignorance, wrong definitions, wrong methodology, faulty assumptions, intuitions, subjectivity, and therefore, this myth of yoga, along with other myths of Hinduism which are being propagated, needs to be identified as another religious myth based on religious texts and should be rejected because it is logically fallacious, full of logical errors, as we saw in this video. I encourage you to watch other videos about the factual errors, epistemological errors, etc. And then you will know the amount of error, the weight of error, has already collapsed yoga philosophy. And it is crashed and it is destructed. It's destroyed. I destroyed it because of its factual errors, epistemological errors, and logical errors. If you are a rational person, if you care for the truth, you should also reject yoga philosophy because it is a lie, it is a deception, it is false knowledge. May God bless you and lead you. Jesus loves you.